Well, good morning. I hope you all have had your coffee and are ready for a riveting presentation on education, the New York economy, and Wall Street, and how they all intersect. Before I get into that, I'll just say a few words about the company, TI-CREF, and why are we talking about education? Well, we are TI-CREF is a national financial services organization with a 90-year nonprofit heritage. We're the leading retirement system for academic, research, medical, and cultural institutions, and we manage, depending on the day, over $400 billion in assets. $51 billion in assets comes out of the state of New York, and right now we are providing 500,000 retirees a combined income of over $10 billion annually. So our core business is focused on higher education. We were founded originally by Andrew Carnegie in 1919, give you a little bit of a history lesson. He thought the academic world was such an important one that he wanted to really attract talent into the teaching professions, and thought one of the key ways was to make pensions portable. So that sort of grew into what we now are as TI-CREF. SUNY and CUNY are among our institutions, as well as NYU, Cornell, and just about every college or university you can think of, both private and public, in New York State. And we've got not only is our headquarters based here in New York City, but we have offices throughout the state. We're at a terrible impasse in terms of unemployment. We are living at a time when, the work life is a big challenge, whether you've got a job or don't have a job. Everybody's worried about job growth. It affects them, whether it affects you directly or a member of your family or anybody else in your orbit. And yet we hear Wall Street's having its second most profitable year ever. And what does that mean for the rest of us going forward? Wall Street is a critical component to the New York economy, as you've heard from both the city and state comptrollers. That is something in the education sphere that we have to be very aware of. The tax revenues coming from that sector are, basically a huge component of what keeps this state afloat right now. But, as we've heard from City Comptroller, there are all sorts of other industries that need to be grown and propped up as well. So how does education play a role in this? Well, we know that in the 21st century, we're becoming sort of a knowledge-based economy. And the education world has to be focused on preparing its students that are coming into into their working lives, prepared to deal in that knowledge-based economy. That doesn't mean if you're in the financial services sector, for example, that English and history and all the liberal arts are not important. I am now a financial services professional, but my major was history. And I went to law school, and I'm using it in the government relations field. So there's, these companies are, multi-disciplined. Education is a profoundly important component to stimulating economic growth. And about 40% of the New York State expenditures for education are funded by the state. And I got that from State Comptroller DiNapoli's office. And yet funding for pre-college is down. K through 12 funding is down. And how do we help? Well, how do we look at that and try to determine what the best way to try to encourage growth in that area, and not just in spending, but in value added and arming students for facing the world. And we're looking now at graduation rates. Our CEO, Roger Ferguson, is a member of the National Governors Association's task force on Complete to Compete, which is all about looking at public sector education on both the K through 12 and higher ed level and saying, how do we arm students to come out of school with graduation degrees? Believe it or not, as education gets more expensive, it's taking longer and longer for students to either complete degrees, or many are never completing degrees. So we see that as a terrifically difficult challenge for both the institutions providing education and for the students coming out of these institutions that are not equipped to get into the job field that they might want to because they lack the actual degree. So that's a very important focus, I think, that needs to be really, really hammered hard in terms of preparing students as they face this economy in the 21st century that has a lot less certainty and a lot less need for unschooled labor pool. So we know that SUNY and CUNY rely on state funding, and we know that affordable tuition is a critical component to the success of SUNY and CUNY. I couldn't have done it without going to a public education, a public institution. I know there are many, many people throughout the state who couldn't have done it otherwise either, maybe some of you. And I think that's an important piece of where we see the need to keep as much as we can tuition down in order to allow students to pay for college. That's always been a hallmark of success here in New York State. And we're comparably a very affordable system, which is also a very highly ranked system. So I think we see a lot of value to that. The SUNY and CUNY campuses have certainly made many, many strides in really providing excellence, centers of excellence for students. And the economy is going to be greatly benefited and has been as they continue to do this. We know they're nationally ranked in Binghamton as one of the 10 best deals in public education nationally, and they're among the highest ranked in National Science Foundation research rankings for public institutions. And we know that they're considered national leaders on public university, public education issues in the country. They've played a leadership role in the NGA, for example. So we know that they've contributed to the growth of technology and other knowledge-based employment in surrounding communities. We also know, though, that New York City has made great strides in graduation rates for the New York City schools. So that's been a real jewel for us to be proud of. The rest of the state is not doing so well. The rate of graduation we're seeing in high schools is around 50%. And that is, what's going on in upstate New York. That is indicative of the fact that the opportunities aren't there, and they're so financially strapped that they're having a hard time getting to work. So graduation rates are a real critical key to keeping the New York State economy vital and growing. And I will just close with that, as this knowledge-based economy takes center stage, more students will need to attend college. They will need stronger preparation in the knowledge-based economy, subjects like, finance, like IT, and sciences. Higher academic achievement in the K through 12 level is imperative to the continuing vitality of the New York area. And with that, I'll thank everybody for their time, attention, and balcony for this opportunity. Thanks so much.